What's up, guys, and welcome back to the doctor's office. I am Dr. K. Roy Knight, here to give you a proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. So I kind of want to format this a little bit differently, just to see if you guys like it. It's really kind of just like I want to analyze the stories a little bit more versus me just telling you guys what happened. So I'm still going to tell you guys what happened, but I just kind of want to analyze them a little bit more. I think we all would like that, right? So, consider this your therapy session, right? So today we are going to talk about issue 4 for the Tin Can Society coming out of Image Comics. And when I tell you this story is getting absolutely insane, and completely wild, I am being so very serious. So, to get started, all of the Tin Can Society, minus Johnny, is in this garage, and they're talking because, they're trying to figure out what happened to their friend. All of them were best friends growing up, all the way into adulthood, and as it turns out, all of them knew that he was Caliburn in one way or another. Everybody knew it. So this story kind of actually shifts over to Adam, who would be the muscle of the group, right? So in the end of the last issue, Kasia was like, I got to tell you guys something. So we start off with Wally Grimler, who was about 23 years old at the time that this happened. So I want to say this was probably about 5 years ago that she was having this conversation with them. And not having the conversation, but talking about this situation that rattled Caliburn, because at the end of issue 3, we see that he's in her apartment because they were sleeping together, and he is completely covered in blood. Now, how the story goes, it does not explain the blood splatter at all. I tell you that now. It does not explain that blood splatter. So we're going to just, talk about that anyway. So, anywho, they were talking about how, this guy, Wally, loved to fight. So, he had a concussion when he started working at a club. And it could have happened at any point in time. Boxing, fighting the guy who was abusing his sister, and then he actually ended up moving in with his sister to basically protect her, and he ended up working as a bouncer at a club. And one night, one of the customers was doing a little bit too much, and they literally punched him in his temple. And after that, he completely changed. So whatever was going on prior to was made worse by the fact that this customer directly punched him in the side of the head on his temple, and it just completely fucked him up. And he ended up losing his job, drinking binges and all kinds of crazy shit like that. Now, one night he was drunk and he was trying to get into his car, and he either left the keys in the car or he left the keys where he was drinking. Either way, he didn't have the keys, and he ended up breaking the window to his own truck so that he could get in. At that point in time, Caliburn attacks him, thinking that he is breaking into this car. He hits his head on a fire hydrant and is bleeding out. And so Johnny takes his helmet off and is trying to see if the guy's okay, and he's literally dying and bleeding out, and Caliburn leaves, and that's where we get the scene where he shows up at Casia's apartment and covered in blood. Again, how that looks on page does not match the blood spatter on his suit. So Kasia is basically telling that's what happened. And when they went back to get his body or to check and see if he was okay, his body was gone. Now, Adam was so they were all oh my God, is he still walking around and all kinds of things. Adam was no, actually he's not. He's dead. And they're how do you know that? And he's because I killed him. Johnny didn't kill him, I did. And so we get into the story of essentially what happened between the two of them. Now, everybody has a story about what happened between the two of them. Greg, as we all know, is his sidekick. Kasia was his lover on the side. And then They used that shed or that storage unit to repair the suit. So of course he knew that he was Caliburn. And then this part was Adam. So Adam was, again, the muscle of the group. He's the one who taught Johnny how to fight back, because as we know, Johnny was handicapped, and he told Johnny, if you're gonna hit hard. And that's obviously something that Johnny took along with him when he became Caliburn. So after all of that was said and done, he got a full ride scholarship for football, and he was doing an amazing job, but he ended up getting injured, of course, on purpose, and his leg was essentially broken. Now, at this point in time, Johnny and Val were not there. Everybody was going like their separate ways when it came to school. But the day that Adam came home, Johnny came home as well. And so when he came home, he brought with him like this prototype for his leg, and he's like, I want you to have this. It's a prototype, but it should work. And Adam got like really offended by this. He's like, I don't fucking need it. And then of course he's like realizing that he's never going to be able to play again. And the reason that he was playing was so that he didn't have to work for his father, only to end up having to work for his father at the construction site. So he grew up with that prototype that Johnny made for him. And later on, when Caliburn comes on the scene, he notices that Caliburn's legs have the same design as the leg piece that was given to him by Johnny. So he figures out that Johnny is Caliburn, and he goes to him and he's like, I want a suit. And Johnny's like, no, because it's not a good idea. He's like, what I'm doing is already dangerous. He's like, it's not a good idea for you to have this suit. And I think we'll get to what I think after. But he's like, it's not a good idea. And of course, Adam's pissed off about this. So he was going to try to blackmail Johnny into giving him a suit by breaking into like this jewelry store. So he breaks this jewelry store's window, goes out and sits in the car. And when Johnny takes off his helmet or whatever the fuck, he was going to get pictures of him and like try to, blackmail him into giving him a suit. But simultaneously, that is the same night that Wally breaks the window to his car. And so he witnesses what happened. So he goes to check, after Johnny leaves to go to Cage's apartment, Adam goes to check on Wally and realizes that he's still alive. But his friendship thing kicks in, and he's like, I couldn't take him to the hospital because he saw Johnny's face. So I had to do something. So I put him in the back of my truck, and I literally just like drove around trying to figure out what am I going to do with this person. He didn't realize that the guy died at the back of the truck until he had stopped at the construction site. So they were just like, then you didn't kill him. He was like, I did, because I could have taken him to the hospital and I didn't. And, he bled out in the back of my truck. So I did kill him because I could have got him help, and I didn't. And he's like, I could have left him there for when Kasia and Johnny came back, and I didn't do that either. So of course he's blaming himself for that. And so he also then says that he buried him in the cement at the construction site. So everybody's got their secrets here. And they're all out drinking, bonding, basically getting this story. And he was like, and everybody thought that they were the only ones who knew Johnny was Caliburn. And they're like, Johnny liked to spread his secrets, to everybody, to this group. Y'all are his best friends, of course. So while they're having their drink in the pool hall, Johnny's widow gets on TV and is like, oh, I'm offering $10 million for whoever can tell me who the fuck killed my husband and where his suit is, or where the extra suit is. And then we get a shot of Wally's sister, and she's going to go check on her baby because her baby's crying, and she walks right past the room with the Caliburn suit in it, and she's like, I'm going to make everything better. Now, we all know how comic books love to throw in these crazy ass things, but Tin Can Society has been pretty straightforward with things that they are depicting. So it's kind of insane to me that Gary Yeah. Wally, Jesus. Wally's sister has access to this suit because for a while, Gary and Kasia were theorizing that it had to have been somebody who worked at Moore's business. And that's almost kind of one of the reasons why she was like, so someone like you. And I almost feel like the widow may have something to do with this too, because it's taken her a really long time to even come out and say anything. But then we also have the fact that after Wally had died and like Johnny was feeling all of this guilt, he was giving her money, like $25,000, I think they said, like every month. And she's still living in that house. You know what I mean? As it was basically, it wasn't hush money because she didn't know like who it was coming from, but it was, I'm sorry money. She still didn't know who it was coming from, but I think eventually she ended up finding out. So the question is, how did she end up finding out, and how did she get her hands on that Caliburn suit? Because like we saw in the issue before, Caliburn attacked Gary. Caliburn didn't attack Kasia, but Caliburn attacked Gary, which means that that person who was operating that Caliburn suit knew that Gary was in the sidekick suit. Because why else would you attack Gary? Unless there's some type of setup thing going on here that we're just not seeing yet. So I think that this issue was very interesting. So to be perfectly honest, this is how friendship circles should fucking work. I'm not even gonna lie. This is how your friends should be 10 toes down with whatever. Val and Johnny were the geniuses of the group. They won a Johnny won a Nobel Prize, but the two of them were like the engineers, and it seems as if he went to Val first when he first became Caliburn, because he needed another engineer who knows how the suit works in order to so that he knows how to help repair it, because he didn't trust going to anybody else to have the suit repaired if he wasn't doing it himself. Then you have Gary, who he chose to be his sidekick, but I feel like him choosing Gary to be his sidekick was more of a keep your enemies close but or keep your friends close but your enemies closer type thing. I feel like Gary has some type of resentment towards him, even though he was picked to be his sidekick, and that's why I think that a lot of this has to do with Gary more than it does anybody else. I really think Gary is a big part of this. I truly do. I think Kasia was really onto something when she started suspecting him, because it's kind of weird. Out of everybody, he chose you to be his sidekick. Now, I don't think he would have chosen Kasia to be his sidekick because he was in love with Kasia and he didn't want Kasia to get hurt. So that was a thing. And then he was helping Kasia get money by letting her take pictures of him and sell them to tabloids and things like that as Caliburn. I think he wanted to really keep her safe and out of the public eye, I think also. On top of that, I don't think he would have made Adam because Adam wasn't mentally all the way there because of how hurt he was with not being able to finish football on his full ride scholarship, and after he got hurt and everything and ended up having to go. I don't think that he would have had the mindset to be a sidekick. So his only other choice seems like it would have been Gary, especially if he had a fallout with Val, because Val doesn't seem like the type who would going to be the sidekick either. So I don't know, but this friendship group has done what they could to not only keep the secret of their friends, but to keep that secret to themselves, because while all of them were sitting at that dinner where they were all together, every single person at that dinner knew that Johnny was Caliburn. And they kept that information on hush hush from each other. That is the wild part about it. Because when Kasia was talking and she was talking about how they would be sneaking around, they kept their relationship on hush hush while also keeping the fact that he was Caliburn on hush. But prior to that, Val was the first person to know that he was Caliburn, followed by Gary, who became his sidekick, followed by Adam. So it was kind of like as if Adam was like the last to know type thing, but Adam still knew. And Adam didn't tell any of them. Val didn't tell any of them. Gary didn't tell any of them. And Kasia didn't tell any of them. Imagine sitting at a table and everybody has the same secret. We're all sitting here having dinner and everybody has the same secret. That is how you know that you have a fucking tight ass group of friends. Because until I'm ready to tell you guys it like simultaneously my secret, and I've told it to you guys individually and nobody's saying anything about it because nobody actually thinks that the other people know, I'm sorry. That's how friendships that's how some friendships work, because now I know like who is really down for me at that point in time, because I'm telling you something or I'm showing you something that's really important to me that I need to keep away because I don't want other people to be in danger. But it's the fact that you told all of them and you trusted them to keep it to themselves. And they did exactly that. Absolutely fucking wild behavior. And it was kind of just like a testament to their friendship because, again, they've all been friends since they were little. And all of them were friends before they met Johnny. Johnny, and I'm not going to say friends, they were definitely acquaintances. Like, they definitely knew of each other and they definitely ate lunch together. I'm not going to say 100% that they were like besties up until the point where they all defended Johnny. You know what I'm saying? Because they all had just like different personalities in school, brought together by one singular charismatic person. Might as well have been the Avengers. I absolutely love this book. I honestly can't even imagine where it's going at this point because, again, they can show you a lot of things in the book and then turn around and it'd be like, just kidding, threw you a little okie doke. So I think it's healing, like when you get these stories where it's unpredictable while still being fun. And I think that is the difference between several of these comic book universes and Marvel and DC, because Marvel and DC, you can kind of predict where things are going and how things are going to turn out. And then that's when they come up with these crazy ass events to try to throw off the status quo. But then once they throw off the status quo, they realize that the status quo is what was keeping them afloat. And so they go back to the status quo. But then it's stories like this, or like String from Mad Cave, or Witchblade, the reboot, where, you know, things are shifting in these different directions and you feel like you know what's going on up until the part where you really fucking don't. And I feel like this is just going to end in the craziest way. And it's so fun to read. So that is it for this episode of The Doctor's Office. Please know that I will be sitting in this chair doing these videos from now on because I stood a lot for you guys. So I will now be sitting down. But that is it for this episode of The Doctor's Office. If you have not checked out my book, please do so, especially if you like horror stories. And I will see you guys at your next checkup.